Welcome, everybody, to this week's podcast episode for the Financial Freedom Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Christopher Liu. I talk about 4 different types of freedom: time, financial, location, health freedom. And I'm always scouring the globe looking for entrepreneurs, thought leaders, influencers on the cutting edge, making an impact. So today, I have a special guest, Sonya Shelton, and she specializes in CEO, executive leadership consulting, and building winning dream teams. So today, for the audience out there, is going to be talking all about your why, the workplace culture, organizations, leadership strategy, and corporate growth. So I'm really excited about this episode, and we'll go right into it. So Sonya, welcome.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Yes. We had connected through Podmatch. It's a great place. And so tell us more about yourself, your background, how you got started, and what you do.
Yeah, so my company is Executive Leadership Consulting. I actually started it because of what I call the last job I'll ever have, which I was the head of employee communications for the Walt Disney Company globally at a time that was very interesting for the company, where we had a member of the Disney family lead a shareholder revolt against our CEO, Michael Eisner, and actually ousted him. So it was kind of like, I say it like I was in that position at a time when nobody in my position had been through that, and no one in that position will ever go through that again, right? So it was like the company going through a divorce, and I saw the best of the Disney culture, and I also saw the worst of it and how it impacted me as a leader as well, the best and the worst, right? So I developed empathy for leaders and saw the power of company culture from both sides, and decided to start executive leadership consulting to help other companies.
That's a very fascinating story. And the more I talk to entrepreneurs, the more people so there's 2 camps. One is what you described, it's the last time they'll ever work for anybody. They'll make it themselves. And there's people that actually kind of in the middle, and then there's people that excel at it. So, and it's quite interesting because I'm more in the camp where I like to call my own shots. But tell us more about, so you talk about this red thread leadership. I'm curious what this term means.
Yeah, so we start with your why. So starting with the leader, why do you do what you do? And then how do you deliver on that why? And what can other people expect from you? So it's really how you operate. And then we look at the same thing for the leadership team. So what is their operating system? And then how do they operate as a team? And then we take all of that to create the company purpose. So there's 5 P's in Red Thread Leadership, and the first one and the core of it all is purpose. So then we weave that purpose through everything that you do as a company, from your plan, which is your vision, your strategy, your goals, your processes. So how do you do what you do? Your positions. So how are you structured, and how are decisions made? How do you decide who you're going to hire, who you're going to promote? And then ultimately passion, which is your culture. So we look at how do we weave that company purpose using the red thread through everything that you do to really bring that purpose to life.
It's interesting, because Disney is quite an amazing. It's a corporation. It's one of those brands that kind of the intangible value is much more than its actual market cap. And I'm curious, because you can take a lot of examples from Disney. They've made a lot of successes, a lot of failures that you can learn from. But one is, so you talk about vision and your why, and you kind of use that as your base case of starting out as a leader. Explain upon that, and why is that?
Yeah. So when you hit obstacles, right? So even think about your own life. When you hit obstacles, it's that desire to get where you want to go. So as a business owner, whether you're a business owner or you're a professional, if you know why you're doing something, you can overcome those hard times. You can overcome those obstacles, and it really creates passion. So that's why we connect it as far as the company culture. having that company purpose helps employees understand what it is that you're trying to achieve. And if they want, they can connect their own personal purpose to that company purpose. But it also helps your customers too decide if they're going to come to you, buy your services or your products based on your purpose, right? So especially younger generations are making more and more buying decisions based on the purpose of the company and who the company is, more than the products and services, right? So it can really make a difference both in your effectiveness in your company culture, but also in your growth as a company, as you're attracting customers that are aligned with your purpose too.
Yeah, and it's interesting. So, the other thing is basically when I talk to the older executives, the older Gen X and baby boomers, and now we have Gen Z, millennials. How do you reconcile these generational gaps and differences, especially with a legacy company such as Disney? I'm just curious how you reconcile that, because you have to innovate and change with the times, but then, your company kind of, if it's stagnated or doesn't progress, it's gonna become like Blockbuster, Kmart, these other companies that didn't make it.
Yeah, absolutely. And purpose actually helps to do that, right? So there isn't a human being alive that doesn't want meaning in their life, that doesn't want purpose and meaning, doesn't matter what generation they're in. And I think the younger generations, millennials and Gen Z, I'm a Gen X myself, right? So I hear people in my generation and baby boomers say, oh, they don't want to work, they don't have the same work ethic we do. And that's really not true. It's just that if they don't understand why you're doing it, they're not going to do it. They're not just going to take your word for it and say, okay, well, because you say so, I'm going to do it. They actually want that why. They want to know what is the purpose behind what they're doing, and they want meaning in their work. It's more important to them to see that they're making a contribution, that they're actually valued and appreciated in what they're doing, and they're standing up for it. They're not just taking it from companies. They're standing up and saying, no, this is what I want, and if you're not going to give it to me, I'll find another place. And I think companies like Disney look at, really connecting to what it is that their customers want, right? So what is it that they're doing in their personal lives, and how can the company serve them in based on where they are, right? So any company that's looking at that, you're starting with your purpose, then you're not looking at just what you do. You're also looking at how you do it, which is a place for innovation. And then you're looking at why you do it, which is another place for innovation, right? So it actually opens up more for being innovative as a company.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting because there's a coffee shop close to my house, and it's basically organic and environmentally, and it's almost like 30% more than like your Starbucks, but all like it's always crowded with millennials and Gen Z, and you ask them why, and it's because they'll pay more because it's like good for the environment, it's like, and it's supporting good causes. So really what you're describing is trends, which brings us to the next topic, is workplace. Basically COVID changed everything. We can work from home, remote work, digital nomadism. So what are some of the trends you're seeing in the workplace today?
Yeah, I think it seems like every month there's a new one, right? Right. So we had remote working, we had quiet quitting, we have all of these things. We're seeing a tremendous increase in burnout recently, and I see this across industries, and it is in healthcare especially, right? There's a ton of burnout, and we really looked into what is this about, and I think it's really about that purpose, right? And also clarity.
Yeah.
So there's I think we're in a time, post COVID, where there's a lot of uncertainty, right? Are we going to have a recession? Every day that I'm on LinkedIn, I see, this company's had this many layoffs, that company's had this many layoffs. And when you see those headlines, it creates more uncertainty, both for the leaders themselves and for the employees, right? Because the leaders are like, well, if this is what's happening, if we're not laying off people, should we be thinking about laying off people? And then employees are like, am I next? Right. Right. So all of this uncertainty, it like creates more stress in people's lives. objectives, and they're not clear about where they're going. So I think it's important for leaders to look at, not only that purpose, but also the vision of where they're going. So their employees see, oh, this is where we're going. This is the plan, and this is my part in it. And then that starts to create more security and psychological safety in their position.
Uh-huh.
But I think it also creates the ability to see that there's progress being made. So there's so many people that I talk to in organizations right now. The way that they describe their job, I equate it to like running really, really fast on a treadmill. Like they're going, but they are not getting to anywhere. And so they're working hard and they're busy and they're getting things done, but they're not stopping to recognize the accomplishments and the progress that they're making. So it feels like they're not accomplishing or making progress, right? And then that creates burnout, right? So it's really around helping, taking those moments, even if it's small wins, taking those moments to stop and celebrate and recognize everything that you've accomplished feels like you're making progress on the road to the vision, as opposed to just running on a treadmill going nowhere.
Yeah, I love that. And then I love how business and culture, basically their position and stance, values, all these contribute to employee well-being, happiness, and ultimately productivity. One thing is, there's this popular saying, which basically you say that culture doesn't eat strategy for breakfast, they have breakfast together, which is interesting. And striking the right balance between the two.
Yeah, absolutely. There, around the time that I came up with that, there were these two TV series that came out. One was about Uber, and the other one was about WeWork. So I don't know if you saw those, but of course they're fictionalized and made extreme. But I thought that the shows did a really good job at showing Uber was so focused on their business strategy, so focused on their growth, and they had a horrible culture. It was a terrible place to work, right? And then you had WeWork, which was all about the culture, and then they overspent and almost took the company down because they were so focused on the culture that they lost sight of the business strategy, right? So I love that those two examples to say, again, seeing it, wasn't there. I didn't see it from the inside, but looking at those shows and how it was described, and also heard it in the media when all that was happening, right? The dichotomy between what happens when you focus completely on business strategy, or what happens when you focus totally on culture, they don't work. It doesn't work, right? So if you really develop a culture that can support your business strategy, then you can really accelerate performance and profitability, because you're creating a culture where people understand where the business is going, where the company is going, and they want to be part of that, and they want to see that happen, right? So they're going to help you, and they're probably going to help you more than even you think is possible, because they're going to come up with their own ideas, and you're going to be like, wow, that's actually going to get us there faster than I thought.
Yeah. When I saw I think it was the one was Uber was on Showtime. I saw that one. I didn't see the one. I think that WeWork, there was one that was at, I think it's South by Southwest. But this has really been a really interesting conversation, because basically a business organization is it's basically this fast-paced organism that's basically changing. The times are changing so quickly. One question is, how do organizations create such strong vision for the future during these times? One market's changing, it lasts for maybe a week and then something else. And how do you reconcile that?
Yeah, I think that it's being agile, for one thing. So being able to move with the times, but not being reactionary. So I think that there's a fine line between being agile and flexible with what's happening and responding to what's happening in the marketplace, and being reactionary to say, oh, this is happening, so and so there's a fire, we got to put it out. And I was just talking to somebody this morning where they were saying that companies create a vision, and then they get so caught up in the minutia of the day-to-day that they forget about the vision. And it's like, well, the vision's it's not just something that you put on PowerPoint slide or on a piece of paper on the wall somewhere and then walk away. It should be guiding the company. It should be guiding all of your decisions, almost like your North Star. And so if you're following that, then you know when it's time to respond to a market that's going to get us closer to our vision versus being reactionary, which is, forgetting the vision altogether.
Yeah. Yeah. So well said. Last question is defining success at your company, and how do you define that, and importance of, again, we talk about vision and what people want out of their work experience.
Yeah, I think it's different for everybody, right? So you could have what they call a solopreneur, or like a doctor or a lawyer who has their own practice, and that's all they want, right? They don't want to create this big company, and so that's success for them, right? Is to they know this is what I want. I might want a lifestyle business, right, where I just make a certain amount of money and I can spend the rest of the time traveling or doing whatever, right? Or it could be a company that is a Fortune 100 company that really wants to drive shareholder value and profitability. And so their success is a different definition. So I think it really goes back to that purpose of the company and the vision of what you want to be. And there's no right answer, right? It's what's right for you as a company and what's right for you as a leader. And really getting clear about that and not letting outside influences sway you to say what success should be.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. How can people contact you and follow you, reach out to you, and possibly work with you?
Yeah, so I'm on all the socials under Sonya Shelton, and you can also reach me at our website at executiveleader.com. And if anybody in your audience is interested in learning more about Red Thread Leadership, I'd love to share a gift. I have a free masterclass at redthreadleadership.com that takes you through all of the 5 Ps and how to implement them in your business.
Yeah. And let's thank for a wonderful podcast interview. Let's thank Sonya for dropping so many nuggets of wisdom with her experience at a major company. And be sure to follow her. All of her socials she's on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube, as well as her website. And check out her book as well. And all of those resources will be in the links and show notes. And thanks so much for coming onto the podcast. And it was a wonderful discussion.
Thank you so much. I had so much fun talking